Cubs and Cardinals fans, it's Thursday, September 27th, and the Hot Rods are sputtering to the finish line. The Cardinals are on the first spot in the playoffs. The Cubs are on the brink of blowing their lead in the division. And you're on the brink of the Team of Rivals podcast. It starts now.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's the drive. Way back. It's complete. Playing a high drive into left. Back goes the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. He's a part of the world champion from 2011. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it toward Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron, Pete, and Elliot.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the show this week. Pete's got a disapproving face. What was that face you just made? You made like a pouty face, a frowny face at your microphone. I don't like that. What's going on? You all right?
Not happy.
Elliot's back. Elliot's alive, everyone. I don't know if everybody's heard this week. He's here. We found him face down, ditch, inebriated. Wife left him. He's now living in Sandwich.
Which is kind of like...
Which isn't true. None of what I said is true.
I'll say you're looking pretty good for all that, Elliot.
Yeah.
Well, we showered and shaved him.
A little bit more gray hair this week.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, confession time.
Well, this is early.
Come later. I'm just going to get it out of the way. It's been burning me up. So Elliot, I don't know what it was, but somehow I know I was giving you a hard time about, your gray chin, and I have one too, except I've got it shortened right now, so you can't really tell.
Correct.
I have never done this before, but I did it. And so the whisker and beard coloring for Just for Men on the little the comb.
Right.
I did it on a random morning right before work. I said, I'm just getting rid of some of this. And then I got carried away. And I did the whole beard.
And then you went downstairs?
No. I went to work, and people were like, "You look different today," and we can't figure out why. and nobody pointed at that. Now, I've in my late 20s, I tried just on the sides of my hair because I had a little bit of gray coming in. And I got black. My natural hair color is black, so of course the only hair color that's just black is not for white men; it's for black men. I used it, and in certain lights, it gave off a blue sheen on the side of it. I felt ridiculous. I ended up cutting my hair real short. So I've never touched it since then. But I said, I'm just going to try this. And I've got strange looks at work. I think people knew what I did, but didn't want to come out and say it. It was embarrassing. I've since abandoned any thought, and I will grow old gracefully. There, I feel better.
Man, I'm right there with you. I've been going gray since I was 17. I had the same.
I was going gray when I was a state champion wrestler. Yeah, I know. I feel real sorry for you. All right, we got baseball to talk about, guys. This is
is that what this show's about?
This is
Yes.
Well,
is that what happened?
If I could get it started on baseball talk just a few minutes earlier rather than like 12 minutes into the show, perhaps we would have an additional viewer or two follow us a little bit longer. This is complete utter insanity heading into this weekend, guys.
All we asked was for one win. One single win.
How do you think we feel, man? I mean, you're welcoming that. I mean, their season record up to that point was split right down the middle, right? And welcoming the Brewers into Busch Stadium, you thought this is the last homestand of the year, potentially the last time they're going to play in Busch Stadium this calendar year, right? And I expected a much stronger showing from the team. And I tell you what, Breck, I don't know how many games you were able to absorb, but I watched every one of them. And, I game 2, I ended up tuning out at some point because I just saw where that was going. But you guys, it wasn't a fun Monday through Wednesday for Cardinals fans. It wasn't. It was really disappointing.
I agree.
We can get in. Yeah, I know you guys agree. And you know what? And those bastard Phillies and Padres and Diamondbacks for that matter that couldn't beat Colorado one stinking time. They've won 7 in a row.
Yeah, they won tonight or today.
Right. And so thank you, Gabe Kapler, for packing it in and not showing up for the remainder of the year.
On the bright side, we do have a competitor for best Cardinals silhouette now. Colton Wong is not the runaway leader anymore for best Cardinals silhouette. Adolis Garcia is coming up close, man.
Dude, you know what? The only thing that I hope you don't go that route and use that, because here's a guy who's had sparse playing time.
Yeah.
Running his ass off and blew a tire, basically. I mean, and you know what? Most veterans that are in that type of situation, they're coasting into third base. They're not even going to try. And you got a young kid up here who's just trying to prove himself, just trying to add some kind of value. He knows he's not, if they were to make it to the postseason, he probably knows he's not going to be on the roster. And so he's,
think about it. If they don't pinch run for Carpenter there, Okendo's throwing up the stop sign at third.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
And that inning is probably still going.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I feel terrible for that kid. And there were shame on the Cardinal fans who jumped all over him too. I mean, get the hell out of here.
I tell you what, I felt bad for him right up until the point that he got up and tried to continue home.
He should have gone back to third.
It happens, right? It happens. Yeah. You fall down sometimes. It happens. So you collect yourself and you go back. But the fact that he tried to go home with some, I mean, half-assed is complimentary, some quarter-assed effort. I mean, he didn't even make an attempt to get into the base.
Well, that's you know what I chalk that up to, guys? This is a young player and the game's moving faster than their mind's able to keep up.
Yep.
And that's all there is to it. You get a veteran who's been in this situation. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. And that, you know what, when you're riding the bench that often, I mean, if that many days in a row and you're not getting in, I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, but you know what, he probably knows that this late in the year, that's what he's going to get called in to do late in the games. And he should have prepared himself perhaps a little bit better, but you know what, I don't blame him for the effort. I mean, you know what, whatever happens. At best, the game is tied right there if he ends up scoring. And the way the Cardinals bullpen has been, well, you know what? I don't want to go on the bullpen thing tonight, because I hold their lineup. Their lineup shares in 60% of the reasons why they dropped all these games, and I'll get into that later of why. And you might think I'm crazy. They scored 4 runs the first 2 games, each of them. But that came on 3 swings, guys. You take those 3 swings away, that offense sucked. And and I only blame the bullpen so much. I mean, when the bullpen has the thinnest of margins to work with and no room for error, you can't. The way that pen has been all year long, you can't put that on them. Not 100%.
No losses on any specific part of the team. I mean, it takes a team effort to win, just like it takes a team effort to lose a game. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that. There could be certainly parts that are lacking. It'd be a lot easier to win if, say, the bullpen was, a bit together. But
you haven't been watching Cubs games lately.
Yeah.
Hold on, Pete.
That's all the offense.
Pete, shut it. I got to read this text to you. This is for you.
Okay.
That you're going to recognize the name. There's 2 of them. I'm going to read the whole thing. This. I'm not putting a filter on this guy.
All right.
Dustin Duquesne. Haven't heard from this guy at all. So here's the deal. Sitting here with my AM radio and my Cubs for the 100th something time this season, the division has been hard to hold during the final stretch. Okay. Fucking Brewers are good. There he is. Oh, he sent a picture. You know this, and I'm sure you hate the math even more than me right now. And I subscribe to your YouTube channel, fucker. Don't know if you can see who follows you. I have been watching these casts through my VCR. Bullshit, man. Now here's the thing. I have no doubt he still has a VCR. I don't know how he's watching podcasts through it.
He's probably figured out a way to record them. He's got them all on VHS tape.
You know what, Dustin? I'll tell you what. If you're on right now listening to us, you know my number. I'm going to give it to you right now. And oh shit, I don't know if I should give this out publicly, but screw
probably
it.
Probably
not. No, I'm going to. I can always change my number. No, I'm not. I'll text. I'm going to text you. Yeah, thank you, Brecklin. Women are here. Women are here to civilize men.
You might not want to do that.
Ron.
All right, so I won't do that.
Ron just almost doxed himself.
Well, you know what? I was really stupid to begin with because he's texting me, so obviously he has my goddamn number. Dustin, I've got my phone patched into the soundboard here. You go ahead and call in if you're listening live right now, or you'll be exposed as a liar if you're not listening live. Go ahead and call in the phone right now because Pete hasn't talked to you for like a decade, and so I think that Dustin's a huge Cub fan.
It might be the last time I talked to him was when we were loading Rosie Perez into the back of your car.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, true. So Rosie Perez. What a terrible story that was.
That was a fantastic story.
And by the way,
Hall of Fame story.
Please make it sound better than Rosie Perez in the back of my car. That's not quite
Rosie
the story.
Perez.
She looked a lot like Rosie Perez. Dustin, if you're listening, call this number that you're texting right now, and we'll get you on, and because we want to talk to you. And don't be socially awkward just because we're live right now and other people can hear you. You don't have to be recluse anymore. You need to come out of the shadows, my friend.
Come on, Double D. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, baseball.
Don't be socially anxious, even though you're live and there's people that can watch
right
now, and we can't edit it, but you'll be fine. Good pep talk.
Okay, so we know what happened to the Brewers. You guys want to break that down? That's fine. The Cardinals. Look, there's a couple things I was predicting going into late in the year, and even in the postseason, if they were going to have any chance at all, I thought the Cardinals would be exposed highly in a couple areas. Obviously, the bullpen's a given, right? I mean, we've got so many young arms in the bullpen that we're relying on for key roles, key situations. A lot of these kids haven't. Kids, I don't mean to sound that way, but a lot of these young men have not pitched.
Yeah. What you got against 20-year-olds, huh?
They haven't lived life.
They're all stupid. They haven't been there back in the day. Yeah. But these young men, they haven't pitched in these high pressure situations this late in September. This is something new to them, and you can kind of see with some of them, they're kind of. I think somebody like a Jack Flaherty looks like they might be hitting a wall. But that aside, I really thought the Cardinals, the biggest exposure they would have is the middle of their order. You guys have heard, Pete, you've heard me bitch about this for almost 2 years now.
You're right.
And it was so evident in this whole series that's damn it, it's missing and it's showing right now because you're posing no threat. And literally, a manager can throw whoever the hell he wants out there, and I don't think that they're biting their fingernails when the middle of the order for the Cardinals is coming up. So it's obvious to me they played terrible defense. I mean, Martinez has been their best bat front to start of the year, and they have to have his bat in there. But then they got him in right field, and I don't know, Brecklin, if you saw that, but that was pretty damn brutal. His play in right field, and I love the guy, but he needs to be a DH.
Yeah, I missed some of it. These past 3 games, I tried to watch them as much of it as I could. I was kind of in and out. So if there's some parts where I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, that's what's going on. But yeah, I agree. His bat doesn't completely make up for his defense.
Like at all.
Like, yeah, no, that's not. It's not good. So,
Pete, I'm going to force the hand here. Hang on.
Uh-oh. You're going to call it?
I'm forcing his hand.
I love how you get on an idea.
Yeah, he won't let go. He's like,
it's impossible. My wife has stayed with me this long. It's pretty amazing.
I thought I was supposed to be.
Use your phone as a phone, you son of a bitch. Stop using your phone as a phone.
All right. So just so you know, we've got you on live on the show right now. So
how you doing, man?
You know, watch your Pete's
I'll
on.
watch my P's and Q's. I'm well. I'm hunkering down, listening to the game as I had privately discussed with you. Just write it out.
Yeah,
I'm very well.
All right, well, good.
I can spurt off about the Cubs or any number of topics.
You can.
Like.
You can. We're not going to touch music tonight, but we are going to stick to baseball. That's
a separate. That's definitely a separate deal. That's a separate team.
And by the way, if you want to know right now, if your own information, I am pitting right now.
You're pitting?
Yeah, totally.
I thought your sphincter had kind of relaxed.
Dude, no, man. I got man. What the hell? I'm sorry. Here we go.
No. this is just out of pure baseball talk. I'm in the same division as you. It's the same math either way, and the same people were looking, even if, never mind Cinderella, but I don't know. You guys, I'm sure you know, there's some kind of like, if there's another candlestick earthquake or something and you guys, like, everybody loses all the games and you guys sweep, or I don't even know. It'll be good baseball either way.
That's a total lie. If that were to happen, I probably wouldn't hear from you for another 2 years.
Well, I don't know.
Ooh.
Every fifth game, one of our starters completely has a blow, like falls apart.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what's up with Rizzo, just like missing routine plays the last 2 games.
Oh, I got to read it.
I don't really know what's going on.
So Dustin, you'll appreciate this too. And Dustin, so you're on right now. We've got Elliot on, who's the other Cubs fan, and Brecklin, who joined the show just 2 shows ago, a brand new co-host of ours, and she's in Iowa. I want to read this text that my dad sent me earlier, and this is a total. Mike,
God bless your dad. God bless you.
This is a total Mike text. You guys will appreciate this.
Lay it on me.
So, did you see the replay today? Rizzo channeling Moises Alou. A fan tried to catch the foul ball on first base line, and Rizzo threw a shit fit and slammed his glove a couple times on the railing. What an ass wipe! Hold on. What?
I got to hear out Mike Nuttall right here.
Fuck you, Mike.
I don't even dignify half of
Hold
it.
on, let me finish this text.
Ronnie.
What an ass wipe. I hope he takes a ground ball in the sack.
Well, what is that, like some kind of a yachty retribution thing? You guys, you can't maintain a pouch during the regular season. Look at that.
Wow.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, condolences to that scrotal injury.
So
I'm really glad he could
come
back and help you guys.
So
with the
Ron,
back half of the season.
you had to pull the scab off of that wound. I was kind of hoping to avoid it, but since you mentioned it, by bringing up your dad, what the fuck was your dad watching? He pumped. I
haven't seen the replay, so
he popped his glove.
Hey,
so the pop up goes back. It's right at the edge of the screen. Rizzo goes back to get the pop. Actually had to reach around the screen in order to be able to try and catch it. And there was a fan there, and the ball's out of play, right?
Yeah.
But the guy's wearing a Cubs hat. Rizzo goes for the catch. It's debatable whether or not the guy actually made it impossible for him to catch it. But Rizzo thought that he caught it, or thought that he might have caught it. So when he pulled it out and looked at his glove, he didn't, and he did a little punch into his glove, and that was it. And then he went back, right? And I thought that we had learned
this one a little bit.
Hang on. I thought that we had learned over the last 15 years, because the media has been incessant in telling Cubs fans how horribly they treated Steve Bartman, that they're terrible, terrible fans for riding Steve Bartman.
Cubs don't need the media. The Cubs fans don't need the media to say that. They do it themselves.
No, hang on. So who drives this whole thing into the ground about how stupid Cubs fans are, that they need to leave the ball alone and don't interfere with your guy? It's the media. This whole fucking thing has been driven by the media. They're the ones who are telling us that we act so poorly. And what at the very first opportunity, they drag this shit out, and they're like, "You need to
interject."
No.
And with
Dustin, once he starts, you best just let him finish.
Cake Clark.
Okay. Hey, I don't want to keep you on the phone, man. I know you're a private man and you want to have your.
I'm not a private man. I'm doing well. I will leave you with this.
Yes.
I don't watch the games on television. I listen to Pat Hughes and Ron Coomer on AM 670.
The Score
for the 120th time this season. AM games are, I know the ugly mugs of most of our players who aren't superstars and underperforming, but I enjoy that. I will suggest, even though I do check on the YouTube for my game recaps and good friends talking about their misguided baseball ideas.
So speaking of that, I have to ask you a question about your text. You say, and I think you're full of shit when you said this, man. Hold on. Something about you watch our live feeds through your VCR. The hell are you talking about?
That's you know that just as me being an AM radio baseball fan speaks to this. I'm a fan of obsolete and strange technologies.
Yes.
Things
So
that
does your VCR sit next to your Betamax?
No. And my laser disc is down at the moment.
Oh,
But I'm just saying,
Yes.
much like my grandpa Duke, I like to sit here with this technology that has been around for ages and listen to an ages-old game.
No, that's
thoroughly
admirable.
enjoy.
That's admirable, and I can't get. And there are a lot of times, Dustin, I'm kind of with you, but I can't get KMOX, the Cardinals radio station, live out here. There's no network that reaches out to Charlotte, so I do have to do internet radio.
No. I fully expect everyone else to keep up with the modern world.
We just got to pull you into it every once in a while, reluctantly, like against your will, thrust technology in your face.
You got me watching you talk about the Cardinals.
Well, now you're on here. So, all right, man. You and I, we have to catch up, so I'll be calling you.
God bless. Soon. Real shame I caught you at the end of the season, fella. But I love you dearly, and you all take care. Go Cubs.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Bye, friend.
Bye.
You know how good it is hearing his voice every once in a while, and I don't hear it enough.
That's awesome.
And give you, Elliot and Brecken, a little backstory. He was my roommate when Pete and soon after Pete and I met. Dustin's an interesting character, very dry sense of humor, but very funny once you get to know him. If you don't know him, you don't like him for the first at least half an hour until you start to catch up. A week or two, whatever. But no, he's my best friend. We grew up together. Our moms were best friends, so I've known that kid since he was in diapers and all that stuff. So I say kid, he's my age. He's like 3 months younger than me. But no, he's been a lifelong friend. I love him to death. We don't get to talk nearly enough. So the fact that he just texted tonight, I had to do what I had to do. I'm sorry, it derailed our show a little bit. But
that's totally really cool.
Totally worth it. It was totally worth it. And the son of a bitch is he's the opposite fan of everything I am. So he's a Cub fan, and he referenced his grandpa, so I give him credit for that. So he's a Cubs fan. I can live with that. I don't know why the son of a bitch is a Packers fan though. And that's a combination of fan I don't get. Like, I think Dustin's a Packers fan just because his best friend growing up, was a Bears fan. I think he did the opposite of everything I did.
Piss you off.
Probably. Sounds about right.
Yeah. he, whatever. All right. This weekend. Let's move forward. The Cardinals didn't help you out at all, and they didn't help them. They actually put themselves in a hole.
Yeah.
They hurt themselves more than they didn't help you guys. And so it's really disappointing that they couldn't at least take one of those, Brecken. I thought, man, they surely will take one game, and they couldn't do it.
I was feeling fairly confident like going in, and then whenever I watched that first game of the series, I just had this feeling. And I hate saying that because I'm a person, I always want to hold out hope till the very end. I am not going to say that we're going to lose a game until like that final out is recorded. That's it. Even if we're way down, like I just, that's the kind of fan that I am, but you could just tell by the way that they were playing that they didn't have it this series. And it was heartbreaking to watch. It was really hard to, but I don't know. I have a lot of opinions on this last series, and it sounds like we're trying to move forward a little bit there.
No. I think we've got time. And if we got things we got to air out about how the Cardinals performed, we should take all the time in the world to do that. And I'm sure that Pete and Elliot are going to want to talk about the first two games against the Pittsburgh Pirates that they clearly expected. I think you guys expected to walk away from Pittsburgh, taking 3 of 4 minimum, and that didn't happen. So, Brecken, I think it's totally fair. I agree with you. I look at a team that at one point in time in Game 1, and it was Monday night when they scored 3 runs off Josh Hader. And everybody was like, the people texting me, Paul Epi was like, did somebody just score off Josh Hader? What the hell has happened? And all this stuff. And I'm like, I felt really good at that point. I'm like, oh my God, if they got to the Brewers' best reliever, I felt they had all the momentum in the world. And then of course the next inning they gave the lead right back up. And at that point,
who got to the Brewers' best reliever earlier this year?
I don't really care, Pete. We're talking about right now. I don't care. Don't care about that guy whatsoever. You eat that money, love it, and soak in it, drink it, smoke it. I don't care. I just so don't care.
Hey, how does that Dexter Fowler vintage taste?
Oh,
talk to me about it next year.
You ever tasted cobwebs? Anyway, sorry, carry on.
I think I have before. Anyway, so Yeah, they looked like at that point in time, once they gave that lead back up and lost that game, they just had no fight in their body, and you could kind of tell in the body language and everything else. The rest of the series was kind of a dud. They had 2 hits last night, 2 goddamn hits last night. But you know what? We hear fans and media ragging on Adolis Garcia for falling down. We hear them knocking on pitching. Yeah. We get into forward conversations about what should be number 1 on John Mozeliak's shopping list in the offseason. You hear people that are just in the moment people, or just locked in a damn way, where they say, some guy responded, pitching. I'm like, okay, fine. You know what? You can't throw Max Scherzer and DeGrom out there every night to shut lineups down every night. Mm-hmm. You have to have an offense that's capable, or at least a threat of scoring, so at least makes the other team react and think at a minimum. And the Cardinals lineup, the way we saw it the last 2 nights, no. Manager didn't have to do any extra thinking whatsoever. And so that's a problem. Cardinal fans have to realize it. You pitching dickheads, the only thing you can default to is pitching. No. This team hasn't been to the playoffs, and they haven't actually been a threat in the playoffs since 2013. And guess what? They were really good at there. They were good at everything. They had a balanced team. So
that's what you need,
right? You dumbasses that only hound on pitching, you're missing it. You have to have balance. They don't have balance whatsoever. And they're actually not good at any one aspect. They're okay with starters, bad bullpen, mediocre offense at best. And that's not going to win you anything.
Elliot, are you enjoying this as much as I am?
Don't be a smug dick. Keep talking about your Cubs.
Just dipping it in. But, yeah, very tasty.
Yes.
I'm just hoping to just make... I hope to drink the tears of Cardinals fans on Sunday. That's the only thing that I'm really, really hoping.
Well, it could be.
Where it's hard to be friends with you.
It could be Saturday that we're drinking their tears.
It could be.
Yeah, I'll put them into my new mug for you guys. How about that?
That'd be wonderful.
That'd be great.
Speaking of new mugs, Elliot, did you not get yours?
I'm in Sandwich.
Oh, that's right. You're in Sandwich. So you may have.
His wife smashed it on the kitchen floor already.
that or Eli's drinking chocolate milk out of it. One of the two.
And I drink hot chocolate out of mine, so that's fine.
That's the only way that it reveals its hidden majesty.
I'll see it tomorrow when I'm back.
Are we going to tell people? Okay, not a beer.
Yeah, Pete, are you going to share the details of this mug? And you know what? Here's the thing, guys. I mean, I don't want to vote on this on a live show. But I mean, look, I'm digging the full crew picture, and I mean, Pete, do we consider hold on, man, is this? I know we've got in our circle, we've got somewhat of an iconic logo. People see it at glance. They see the red and the black, the red and the blue side by side with the white letters under it, kind of like, okay, instant recognition of team arrivals. But I think this image of all of us can rival that. And so I'm digging the new cover photo, logo, etc.
There he goes again.
What?
Elliot, it's the mute button. You have a physical one, and you have a software one right up at the top of the screen there, right under where it says Google Hangouts.
Hey, I personally appreciate it. I like knowing it was my podcast.
Everybody
that's it.
Crack of a beer.
I like that this is the point of the podcast where he's like, this is the time for a drink right now. I appreciate knowing.
For some reason, Thursdays just get to me. So, gents.
I like the photo. To answer your question, I think it looks nice. And I'm not just saying that because my face is in it.
Right.
That's a big reason why, but that's not the only reason she said.
Yeah. I was told that I am the most attractive person on the podcast except for Pete. So
I agree.
Who told you that, Pete?
No, because then I would have just said that there's me and then there's everybody else.
And then there's everybody else.
Right. Okay.
Anyway,
Cubs boys. You know what? Pete looks like a living advertisement, because every time he takes a drink of anything, he makes sure that the logo's facing the camera. And I know the shit's on purpose. You're a bad actor, man.
I know, that's why I'm not an actor.
Maybe we need to call Adam and be like, hey, get Pete in there.
Yeah. Well, Pete's been lobbying for us to have a cameo.
I've been lobbying for, hey, you know what? Maybe we have a better chance of getting in his next film now that Brecklin's on board.
Ooh.
That probably is better. Yeah, that probably is better. Like Brecklin, you're going to be like the thing that gets us in, not us getting you in. I
that's
clearly
funny.
expect that. Yeah, that probably will turn out that way. But Cubs fans, finally, can we get back to baseball just briefly?
Yes.
And then we can go back into
I don't
and
know.
then we can go back into nonsense if you don't mind. Okay.
But we're going to talk about the Cubs, right?
We are. I want to talk
So
about
then
it
we're
right
going
now.
to talk about nonsense.
I want to talk about fair point. This last series, guys, the Brewers are right there now, and we're facing a tough weekend. Both of us are. So take us back to the beginning of the Pirates series. Pete, you kind of last week sounded like, the Pirates. I clearly expect my team, they're going to clinch while the Pirates are in town, and I think that last weekend Joe will be resting a lot of guys. That's not happening right now.
Nope.
So take us back to before the series. What happened? Where your minds were at?
I was disappointed.
Go.
I don't know about you, Elliot. I was disappointed that they took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. And they're lucky that they took 2 out of 3 because they were sloppy games. And then, the offense this is the maddening thing about following the Cubs this year, is that this is an offense that is capable of putting up 6 runs tonight and then getting 1 hit tomorrow.
Right.
Not exaggerating, just seriously, 1 hit.
Let's see, 1 hit. That's all we got. 1 goddamn hit.
Yes. Thanks. I was looking for that. So you beat me there. Thank you. Very well done, sir.
That's the frustration this year, is that this offense is so inconsistent. This is a team that I could very well see getting hot and going on a run and winning the World Series. This is also a team that I could see getting no hit in a wild card game and getting eliminated
absolutely
on October 2nd.
And the crazy thing is, if you look at the offense and you compare it to 2016 when they did win the World Series, they're almost freaking identical, and it's stupid. It's the inconsistencies of this team this year. But if they were just any resemblance of consistent like they were in 2016, when they were taking pitches, when they were just killing the pitchers by just being patient, making these starters throw 80 pitches in the first 5 innings. I mean, you only saw that a handful of times this year, and it just felt like there was a lot more pressing this year, and which led to the inconsistent offense, swinging at first pitches instead of after a guy just walked on 4. It's ridiculous, and I would love this scenario of getting hot at the right time. But you know what? It is absolutely plausible that if the Brewers sweep Detroit, we don't sweep the Cardinals, that we could be looking at a wild card game where 1 goddamn hit.
Or it's very conceivable that we could see a 1-game playoff with the Brewers in order to determine who wins the division and who's playing the very next day in a wild card game.
Yeah.
Right.
It's that close.
It is. I mean, if they somehow manage to hold on, the Cubs will be up 1 game going into the final series of the year.
Right. And then
just like what you're saying, like just because you end up being there, how long is your postseason run gonna last? I mean, I'm sorry. Carry on.
No, it's a good question, I think.
No, it is, and really, it depends on how these hitters are doing. Is Bryant gonna be back in time, be himself when he comes back from getting hit by a pitch in his hand? What is the ramification of Addison Russell probably being out for the remainder of the season and into the playoffs?
He is
nothing.
His administrative leave.
Let's pin that one, guys. So I want your opinions on that here in a little bit. But yes, that's a very big baseball reality to the Cubs. All the event aside, like the Cubs have to deal with that on field, and the Cardinals. I'm going to contrast that, not contrast. I want to compare it to something the Cardinals had to deal with: the death of Oscar Taveras. Tragic, sad. But we found later he made a huge mistake, like a very big human mistake and cost another person their life, but there's still a baseball reality to this.
Right.
And so the Cubs have to face a very cold baseball reality. You know, all the human stuff aside, like it's still a problem for them. So I want to talk about that later, though, if you guys don't mind.
Yep.
Okay. Carry on, my man.
If you remember what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean it's just, you know, there's a lot of moving parts right now, and I hope the stars line up, but we'll see what happens this weekend because the Cardinals are playing for their playoff life right now. They are one game back of the Dodgers for that second wild card spot right now, and so they need to win just as much as the Cubs need to win, and we're going to have this self-contained fought battle at Wrigley Field this weekend while the freaking Brewers get to play the goddamn Detroit Tigers for 3 to end the year.
Yeah.
Thanks MLB for that lineup. Jesus.
Yeah.
That just sounds like excuse making to me, because if the Cubs had just taken care of business and beaten
No,
the
and
teams
that's
that
true.
throughout the course
That's
of the
true.
year, this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm afraid of like bringing this back more towards the Cardinals. There's just so much I feel like is going on that's so similar. This race is so close, and it has been so close the entire time. I mean, the Cubs, like you guys had the division by quite some lead for a lot of the season, but you guys had things that weren't working. The Cardinals had things that weren't working, and now all of that is catching up to where everyone is so incredibly close, and people are blowing up over it as though everything is supposed to be a shoo-in. Like, that's
everybody's gotten hot at separate times. First it was the Cardinals, then it was the Cubs, and now it's Milwaukee. And during this time, the other teams kind of treaded water. There was some separation, but there wasn't a ton. So because this division is so competitive, and they've played a lot of games against each other coming down the stretch here.
So Pete, I want to direct the question to you right now, because Elliot's talking about it, the Brewers, right? And they're on your heels at this point. So I mean, honest assessment, you're annoyed with them right now. We are obviously too, but the Brewers right now, they're not the Brewers of 2011 where they were obnoxious and had the choreographed home run celebrations. And Niger Morgan, he was a complete dick. Tony Plush was his alias. You guys remember that bullshit? But this is not a hateable team like that one was.
Of course they are.
Yeah, they got Ryan Braun.
Fine. But you guys have more friction with their fans. It's closer. I get it. But as far as just that team itself, Lorenzo Cain, Kristen Yelich, Ryan Braun, he's universally hated, so we just kind of discard him for a second. But I mean, you think about that team itself, guys. What, Pete? I want to start with you. Like, what is your impression of the Brewers? I mean, look, are they
good?
Okay?
They are. They've got two of the three elements, of the game, and it's enough that I think it can carry them far. They just need to survive the wild card game. If they don't win that, I mean, it more than any other team, they have the makeup that is very susceptible to the wild card game. Mm-hmm. In that, if their starting pitcher gets hammered, they can't leverage that bullpen. But they did exactly what we joked about at the trade deadline. They loaded up on hitters, and their goal is to shorten the game, to pummel the hell out of the other team's pitching. Hopefully get 5 innings out of their starter and then turn it over to their bullpen and shut it down.
Well, that's exactly what happened in the St. Louis series, though, guys. I mean, Lorenzo Cain, Yelich, Braun. I mean, these guys killed them. I mean, they did. Yep. Moustakas got involved too. I mean, so I agree, Pete. We looked at this and like that's not what they needed. They needed arms, and they didn't get arms. But right now, whatever they're doing is working. And they're facing the Tigers this weekend. I mean, Jesus, they should have no problem taking care of business here. So it's between our two teams here. The Cardinals are fighting for a hoping chance that somebody takes care of the Dodgers and they can squeak in, but the Cubs have the final word, I think.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to ask Ron, what do you think? Do you think that the Cardinals have a shot at making a wild card spot?
No.
If you
Thanks, Pete. I didn't know that you were Ron.
No, I'm going to answer this how I would have without hearing his voice.
No.
Yeah, you're not influencing me at all. Brecklin, looking at what the Cubs have done. I mean, we look at the Cardinals surge that they had from late July all the way through August. They've had a rough September. They're 11-13.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had a good September, and this last series obviously capped off a mediocre bad month.
Yeah.
I think that regardless of how well all these teams have played, the surge of the Brewers, the Cardinals, and Matt Carpenter, all this things going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs still managed to hold on to the top spot in the National League Central despite all of this stuff happening, and injury to one of their key players, Chris Bryant, not having the free agent, savior to baseball pitching, Yu Darvish. So they were without a couple of key position players and a starter that they thought they were going to have, and they still, yeah, right, yeah, absolutely. Brandon Morrow, it's their closer for the first half of the year. That was pretty damn good. Despite all that, the Cubs have still held on to the top spot and not playing their best baseball and still doing it.
Yeah.
So the Cubs have taken care of business against teams that they should, and somebody like the Cardinals haven't. They've whiffed on that a few times. They lost their last 3 series against the Reds. Like, you can't do that kind of shit.
You can't. Yeah.
I mean, look at those series that they lost against the Reds. They didn't get swept, but they lost 2 out of 3. All the last 3. Like, you change that fortune, you're looking at a different race right now.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it. They couldn't take care of that. They went to Detroit for 3 games and lost 2 out of 3 to Detroit. Like, those are the kinds of things you just can't do if you're an elite team, if you're going to be on top of the division, if you're going to be right there at the end. That's the hump they have to get over.
Yeah,
they're not there yet. They're not there yet. And so I think going into this last series, they both have everything to play for. The Cubs, well, I would argue this, guys, and you guys can argue back if you want. The Cardinals have more to play for this weekend because they're just fighting to get in, to have a fighting chance. The Cubs are already in. They're just trying to hold on to that thing so they don't have to deal with any of the wild card play-in games. So there's a desperation probably on both sides, but the Cardinals are fighting for their life. The Cubs will still have a life. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
We can beat that up, guys. Go ahead.
I think that's fair. I have a bunch of opinions about the way that the Cardinals have been playing that I've just been kind of holding back. So at some point, I'm probably going to have my own little rant session. But I think what you said is completely fair.
Pete,
I don't know. I think that it's all evidenced by the way that the Brewers and the Cubs reacted last night. Now, granted, the Brewers, in their minds, clinched their spot in the playoffs by winning, but the Brewers reacted like they had just won the division. Like, they celebrated. There were pictures of Bob Uecker enjoying beer and cigars and everything. The Cubs did nothing. The Cubs clinched the spot in the playoffs when you guys lost last night. They clinched a spot at the exact same time the Brewers did, and did nothing. They celebrated the walk-off win, but they didn't celebrate getting into the playoffs.
Expectations
in their head,
right?
Yep. In their head, it's the Central Division. It's not making the playoffs. Whereas it kind of seems like the Brewers are happy being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well, you think
maybe that comes back to bite them in the ass, and they lose 2 out of 3 against Detroit, and they rest their guys thinking, hey, let's set everything up for that 1-game playoff. I don't see them doing that.
I don't see it either, Elliot. I don't see it either. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, Elliot.
No, you're good.
I want to play off something you're talking about here. You got to remember, and I know Cato hates him, but Craig Counsell is a guy who's been there, done that. He's been there and he's done that. He's done it with the Marlins. He's done it with the Diamondbacks. He's been there for these playoff runs, these pushes. And I think if there's, I don't think that Craig Counsell's going to be a manager who's been in this same type of situation is going to be one to let them relax. That's going to tell them, that's going to allow his team to take the next series for granted. I don't see that happening. You guys might have a different opinion on that, but I think this guy's, he's been in the heat of October. He knows it.
We'll find out tomorrow.
There's a difference between the manager knowing that and the players knowing that.
Right.
Sure. It's communication. It's communication. Can you do that?
And a lot of the guys on that team haven't been through this before.
True.
Right.
Very well, but you're right, Pete. I mean, a guy like Yelich hasn't. A lot of the young players, have not. but don't discount somebody like a Lorenzo Kane being a veteran on the team. And some of the, I'm sure there's a couple others sprinkled in there. I just don't know their names, but you got Kane, you've got Council, who's supposed to be their Moustakis, exactly right. So I think that they have the ability to not let themselves relax. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you guys, your point's absolutely valid. You got a lot of young players. They may think, well, this is we're playing a team from the shittiest division in baseball. This is beer league softball. We're just going to go pummel them, and different things could happen. So yeah, either way.
We'll see what happens.
I was gonna say, you gonna exhale there, Elliot?
Enjoy the silence.
He was, yes, that's great radio. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. Brecklin,
I said it's even better when you listen to it on your VCR.
Oh yeah, that's where you get the best quality.
That's right.
That's definitely high fidelity. I think coming off that tape, magnetic tape. So for the second year in a row, Brecklin, we've seen a team celebrate a playoff berth on our home field.
That hurts.
It does hurt. But is this kind of the thing that galvanizes somebody like the Mazalok in that front office to actually do something about it? I mean, I've been saying that for a couple of years now, where they didn't make it, they got eliminated, they got beat. But is this the kind of thing that the silver lining is they're going to be forced to do something? And I keep saying that, and they do a little bit, but they just don't do that thing they need to do. If they miss this year, is it going to be the year that they finally say, you know what, we're going to absolutely force a player to say no to us? Or like, we're going to give them everything they want and give them no reason to say no other than they just don't want to be in the Midwest, which we have no control over. So
with Jason Hayward.
Pete, no. I mean, if you're proud, if you're gloating and proud of that signing, I'm just gonna let you go ahead and sail off with that. But realistically, is this one of those things where if St. Louis wants to get back to any kind of elite status or start to build a bridge back to elite status, is now the time to do it? Because right now, in their minor league system, they don't have that guy coming up that's going to be that number 3 hitter that's putting ink day in and day out. Nolan Gorman's probably 2 or 3 years away. So they don't have it now. If they want it now, if they want to get back next year, if they don't want to miss for a 4th year in a row, is this the year? If they miss now, is this going to happen? How do you feel about that?
I wish that I could tell you that this is like, yes, obviously all of this is, gone wrong. We need something to come in. If this isn't a clear sign, I don't know what they're waiting for. But realistically, I don't expect them to make any huge moves like that. I plan on them making some move, but I don't see anything completely drastic happening, just because I don't think that that's our kind of front office. I mean, we do have a good farm system in place. AAA is going well. But with the way that the Cardinals have been playing this season, there's been a lot of things that have been going really well, and then a lot of things that went really poorly. And considering that we are, right there, I mean, like what you're saying, we're fighting for this wild card spot. It's not great, but it's also not absolutely awful. I feel like so long as it's being proven that we are a team that could potentially get, I love that grandfather clock. I'm sorry.
Whose clock is that?
Elliot.
It's my parents.
I feel like if there's ever any random noises coming from the background, it's from Elliot. You don't even have to question it.
It's from our guru of radio etiquette.
That's right.
It's his claim to fame. We can have a little sideshow and be like, guess that noise, and figure out what's going on in the background.
Let me open this beer at exact mic level.
Tell by the sound what brand it is. But no, anyway,
you got a keen ear, man, because I can't.
Good.
No, that's what I'm saying what the game should be.
Is an old style open different than a Bud Light?
I'm sure.
Is the sound different?
Probably.
Should we put that? Should we do a poll question? We haven't done one for like a year.
Yeah, do that, and then we'll do it on air.
You're lucky I don't drink Bush, because it'd be.
Oh shit! You know what? I was texting our Slump Buster Chug guy last night, and he was supposed to be on one of these shows, but never got back to me. You guys remember Burns, right?
Yeah.
I lost miserably in that contest. Exchanging messages last night. He actually he was listening to George Thorogood, and actually did one bourbon, one scotch, one beer, and actually put it on our Facebook page. He might still be passed out and not. We're actually recording tonight, but he's like, yeah. I'm like, what are you free tomorrow night? He's like, oh no, I'm going to be on a podcast. My good buddy Ron. I'm like, well, which one do you want to come on? I never heard from him after that, so hopefully he's okay. But yeah, go ahead, guys. Sorry.
No, yeah. So, what I was saying, the team isn't so abysmal where I feel like it's going to push them to really do anything drastic, because we're right here. And looking at this last series, I mean, you kind of mentioned it before, there came a time where there just felt like there was no energy. And it wasn't just from the team on the field. Like, you could hear it if you're watching on TV and just like watching the stadium and the fans. It just wasn't there. And when that energy isn't there and just everything starts kind of falling apart, you get this feeling where it's, okay, it's that energy, it's that drive, they're tired, it's the end of the season, just like what you were talking about. Our AAA guys haven't had to play this long. So you get this belief like, well, maybe it'll be better next year. You know, they just need more conditionings. We have new coaches in, we've got a new manager. There's a bunch of things that we can fix that are already in place. Mm-hmm. So for the front office to then look at it and be like, nope, we've got to bring in, you know, a whole bunch of new guys, you know, make a bunch of drastic changes. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a whole lot. Like, I think the Cardinals right now, you guys, I'm interested in your opinion too. Like, if they were able to bring in that one big bat, right? Because we all know the impact of bringing in just one bat, what it can do to your lineup. If you bring in one bat that's ideal for a position you're really lacking in, it allows other bats to kind of settle in at areas in the lineup that they might be better served. For instance, you know, the Cardinals if you plugged him into the lineup, now you allow Paul DeYoung to bat 5th, 6th, 7th. You allow Matt Carpenter to go ahead and stay at leadoff, since that's the only place his brain can tell him he can hit. You know, but I mean, the problem is, like, this was evident in the Braves series. The Cardinals played the Braves. They took 2 out of 3, but that's really an aberration, because if you look at who the Cardinals were batting third, they had Jose Martinez in game 1, Tyler O'Neill game 2, Matt Adams game 3. Tyler O'Neill spent most of his year in Memphis. Matt Adams was claimed off waivers. Jesus, guys, if that's who's batting third for you, if that doesn't scream that's what you're missing, what the hell are people watching?
I mean, yeah,
it's not a need.
We've talked about it, it's a revolving door, but I still don't know if they're going to make any changes, because I don't think there's enough to push them to do anything.
Well, and
I see them making that only change next year. I can see them being as is, trying to bring in a 3-hitter, and then still seeing that revolving door next year.
That's the one negative. If they were able to sneak into the playoffs, guys, that's the one concern I've always had with this front office. If they're able to just make it, which they say their goal every year is to make the playoffs, and if they're able to make it, they're going to say mission accomplished. You know, George Bush out in the aircraft carrier before the war's won, declaring victory. And so I worry about this front office going, well, we did what we said we were going to do. So we don't have to do anything for next year. We've already got everything in place. That's the only worry I have. Strategery.
What'd you say, Ellie? I'm sorry.
I said that's some good strategery.
But I mean, you guys get my point, right? It's like, okay, do they risk doing just well enough where they allow him to kick the can further? Or, you know, do they come up short enough to where he has no choice anymore? So I don't know. It depends on how you look at it.
I mean, you know, people are going to bring up the Matheny thing again and say, look how long he was manager when we were playing the way that we were. I mean, not to continue bringing this up, but I mean, it's something that you got to look at.
You should post that on the Cardinals Nation Facebook page tonight.
Oh, that's going to be great. I saw so many things today just talking about Mike Matheny wasn't the problem. Well, if he wasn't the problem, he was still a problem. He
was part of the problem. He wasn't the problem, but he was part of it.
Well, yeah. I tell you what, you guys are one game back at kicking the can down the road. I think the only way they make changes is if they don't make the playoffs.
I agree, Elliot. That's why, you know what, I want to see him there, because I want to keep doing relevant shows. I want to have relevant conversations, and not just, I mean, you guys know what I mean, but not just very lopsided with the Cubs. We did that last year and it was fun, but it's so much more fun when like both are involved, right? I mean, so
that's the point. Right.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I mean, I personally, nobody understands whenever I talk about this stuff, and don't shoot me, Ron, but I like it when the Cardinals are doing really well and the Cubs are doing really well, just because that makes for some really fun baseball to watch. Well, don't get me wrong. I agree
with you. And Pete, you've heard me say this before, right? Some of the most memorable seasons were when they're both in it. and they're competing. You've been awful quiet. You okay?
Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm taking it all in. Look, man, I blew my load on that whole Anthony Rizzo.
My
Steve Barnes
God.
thing earlier. I'm still in my refractory period.
All right, Dustin made sure he texted me and said the Cubs have won.
Yes.
So,
All right.
So it's one game.
One game.
One game.
One game up,
which
with 3
means
left.
Which ultimately means that the Brewers now need help from the Cardinals. So we would appreciate it if you didn't oblige the same way that you didn't oblige us earlier in the week.
Well, we're here to serve you.
Yeah.
I know you are. I know.
I could see every game going into extra innings, arms getting blown out because we're playing 17-inning freaking games back to back like we started at the beginning of the year.
And Steve Cishek appearing in all 3 games.
That's right.
Because Joe just can't get enough of him.
He's in tonight.
Steve.
He was just
Lovely.
like Joe last night.
If the Cubs,
And
if the Cubs
got
pop
pulled
up-
again because he can't throw a freaking strike.
so
Bad case.
so so we know how like you guys would probably agree, maybe not. There are dedicated, knowledgeable Cub fans, and there are a lot of them that hang out in the bleachers.
I like how you put that.
So
populations.
if the Cubs somehow cough up this division and let the Brewers in and capture it, like these half-assed fans, how are you guys going to deal with that shit? Because
The idiots?
yes,
It depends on how they react.
Yeah.
Pete is
Depends
going to be
on
on
what
fire.
their- what their
I will
first
change our Twitter logo to just a flame.
A flame.
Let you just go.
I mean, say tomorrow Cardinals take game 1, Brewers blow up Detroit. We're tied at the top of the division. The Doom Boners will be out.
Doom boners. That was already an episode title. We can't use it
I
again.
know.
I
But
think this one's double D.
yeah.
Just put DQ. That's short for
DQ.
Duquesne.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I like double D better.
D squared? No.
I'm not sure we can put that.
Why? Because there's a D in the
Fair
room? Pervert.
Brecklin, how could you go that
I know.
direction? I mean, my God. We try to do a clean show here.
Yeah, I'm the one that messed that up. Let's call your friend back and talk about his Titan sphincter, shall we?
Yeah, well, if you had 25 more minutes with him, you might understand where. But no, maybe not. Maybe another week. We won't.
We're just gonna have to
subject you.
bring him on for a little bit of each show, so that way we can condition everyone to him.
You know,
How about that?
the thing is, now that I know he's accessible and actually answer his phone now, I can probably do that more often. We probably should try a Fisher Mac episode again in the offseason.
Oh my God.
Oh my God! Can you imagine all 4 of them?
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing, but it would also be like we couldn't have Brecklin on for that episode.
I'm getting exiled from my own show.
It's for your
I
own
wouldn't
protection,
even-
maybe.
I wouldn't even be on that show, man. I would just sit back and enjoy the chaos.
Just
We'll
let
have
him-
2 things going on. We'll do like a live stream of Pete and I listening in on the show.
Phenomenal.
just
I
a
got a front row
camera on your
seat in the
face, just
world.
reaction. Like, are they really discussing this? This has nothing to do with
Right. Pete
yeah.
and I
There's
being like, what's going on?
yeah. Central Illinois is normally a boring place, but when you get behind walls, it's a different world. It's yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, punji stakes, landmines, cigarette butts, and all kinds of things that we don't want to discuss anymore. Anyway,
Moving
guys,
on.
guys, what's wrong with the Cubs? I mean, you know, we know Bryant's had an injury. Is he back yet? I mean, what are you guys seeing from Bryant? Because I haven't been watching the Cubs games in, day out. Is that guy back yet, or is there still like issues? And is it still gentle? I mean, what's going on?
Everything was fine except for the power. The power was still coming, but you know, the OPS was looking good. His batting average was looking good. He'd only hit, I think, 1 home run, maybe 2 since he had gotten back off the DL.
Yeah.
And then he took one off the wrist yesterday or day before yesterday. So he was out yesterday. He was out today. They're talking like he may not be back before the end of the regular season. So
Yeah, that's too bad. I mean, it's too bad, right?
Continue to pile up for the Cubs. Right.
Yeah, so it's too bad because I mean a wrist injury like that. I mean us as Cardinal fans, we've seen the same thing. You know, go back to 2001, JD Drew having a great year, like his best year as a Cardinal, got plunked on the wrist by David Wells when he was pitching for the White Sox, and it ruined his year. I mean, he was having a really good year. So we've seen that kind of thing happen. Wrist injuries are tricky, man. It's like kind of like a back issue, and so. If that's not working for you, it makes things really tough. And who can predict? I mean, you can predict sometimes. I feel like you can predict somebody coming back off of Tommy John better than you can breaking a wrist off a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, look at Ben Zobrist's year last year. Everybody was ready to write him off. That he had finally hit the wall. It's pretty clear that wrist injury that he suffered at the beginning of the year last year was entirely at root of all of his struggles last year, because he's played like the player that everybody expected this year. Now, granted, Joe has managed his playing time well and has allowed him to rest, but he's back healthy finally from that wrist injury, and it's made all the difference in the world for him.
I want to get into another subject here, and this is not one that anybody's going to listen to our show and want to know what we think happened off field. I mean, obviously, we like to have fun with baseball. We like to have fun talking about it, and this is friends of rival teams gathered around a bar stool talking shit to each other. So nobody wants us to get into the details of what we think socially of what's occurred. But you guys have to deal with a very real baseball reality that your shortstop, who's your opening day shortstop, your shortstop for most of the year, is not going to be accessible and possibly not accessible for the playoffs. Major League Baseball could extend his administrative leave into that. So
no, they can't.
You guys see this as a big deal?
No, the administrative leave only goes for the regular season, but in all likelihood,
but that doesn't rule them out from extending that further. I don't think so. I mean, they
would have to do a suspension.
Yeah, they can only extend. They can only do 2 7-day administrative leaves.
Right. So I'm going to let you guys take the subject from here, but there's a baseball reality to this, and much like back in 2014, the Cardinals had a player die from his own mistake, but it still was a reality, and they had to deal with it in baseball terms. Take the human element, the sadness, all the reality out of that, but there's still a baseball problem you're facing. So how is that going to play itself out here in the remainder of the year and into the postseason, guys?
I actually think it benefits the Cubs.
I do too. As bad as it sounds, I think because it gives the Cubs a clean break, which is probably what's going to happen. Addison Russell is probably going to get cut after the season ends, and that gives them free reign to probably go after both Manny Machado and Bryce Harper.
Of course.
Pete. Pete.
That's where we arrive at the Addison Russell conversation. We arrive at Machado and Harper. Thank you, Elliot.
Now, for the immediate in the immediate future, I absolutely agree with Elliot. It makes it easier because it takes that piece out of Joe's arsenal. Joe loves to play toy soldiers, and if he has a soldier still there, he's going to play him no matter how ineffective he is. Witness Tyler Chatwood. Even look at Justin Wilson up until the end of last year's regular season. He continued to put him out there trying to get him right. If Addison was still around, look, Addison Russell has not been the same player the last 2 years that he was when the Cubs won the World Series. And there's no hope, I don't think, among any Cubs fan who spends any amount of time watching, there's no hope that he's going to be that player again. He still will continue to be one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball, but it's not enough to make up for what he lacks at the plate and on the base pass. But Joe feels a loyalty to him and feels like he's got to put him out there in the lineup. Well, now he can't. He doesn't have Addison for the rest of the regular season, and I don't think that Jed and Theo are going to put him on. In fact, one of the side benefits may be that pretty much locks up Terrence Gore making the postseason. It would have been a real stretch to put him on the roster if Addison Russell was still on the team, but with him off, Joe still has to make all of the calculations that he would have made as far as who's going to be on the roster and who's not. But it's not as difficult to put Terrence Gore on because essentially you're swapping Addison Russell out for Terrence Gore, and Terrence Gore is going to be a useful piece at some point, depending on how far the Cubs advance. He can be their Dave Roberts, who steals 2 bases and sets himself up to score an important
guy
run.
is fast.
That's a question that I have for you guys. So would you rather bring someone else in for that shortstop position instead of moving Baez over to shortstop and then replacing your second baseman?
You mean next year?
Good question. Good question.
Well, just kind of in general. I mean, for now and for next year.
Well, for now, Javi Baez is the shortstop, and Dale Murphy is the second baseman.
Dale Murphy? He came out of retirement?
Jesus.
Did you say Dale Murphy?
Yes, I did say Dale Murphy.
I mean, I even had my headphones on when I picked that up.
Anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you're swapping in Zobrist. You're using Schwarber out there in left field. Thank God for Bodie's glove. Otherwise, I mean, he's had some clutch hits. He had another one tonight. But man, he's been awesome at third. And I know that's that part of the question that just popped into my head. But yes, Javi Baez will be the shortstop for now, and then Murphy will be your second baseman. With Zobrist swapped in and out. So,
long-term answer to your question, Brecklin, I think that for the future, Javi Baez is the Cubs' starting shortstop from here on out. It's his natural position. That's where he came up. He only moved over to second base because they had Addison Russell. And yes, he's an outstanding second baseman, but if he can just calm himself down at shortstop, I think he can be just as good at short as he has been at second. If they manage to convince Manny Machado to come, I think Machado plays third base. You've got Baez at at short, and then David Bodie, Ben Zobrist, and whomever else they can plug into second base, and Chris Bryant becomes an outfielder.
Chris Bryant, left field.
Chris Bryant's your starting left fielder. Jason Hayward in center, and Bryce Harper in right.
This is me being ignorant. How long do you guys have? Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
I know you're not. Cubs got that TV money coming,
guys. I would gladly you go ahead and take Bryce Harper, and he can compete with all the other personalities that look.
And Manny Machado. Don't forget Manny Machado.
And you going for both of them?
He's my one. If I'm in that front office, I'm targeting Manny Machado first.
You and at least half a dozen other organizations. And you're right. You're right. And you're absolutely right for looking at that one and going, "That's the one I want."
I'm not saying he's a lock to get him, but I'm saying that it's it's the same thing as you said. You give him as many reasons as you make it as difficult as possible for him to say no.
Yep.
You don't just go to Manny Machado and say, "Hey, you know what? We'll give you."
The thing is between
$250 million over 10 years. No, you throw him that $400 million number and
agree.
Make that decision difficult for him.
Totally agree, Pete. But if you look at the
and by the way, your best friend is already on our roster.
Yes.
Well, true. I don't think that means shit at the end of the day. I think dollar signs are going to override, whatever else is going on. But look, I'm going to look at it this way and say, look, who needs a star more at this point in time right now? You guys can't argue with me on this. You have no argument to this. The Cardinals need one of those names more desperately than the Cubs do. The Cubs already have those names. They already have Bryant.
Cubs already have Jason Hayward. They're fine.
Don't give them any fuel whatsoever. But you're right to say that because Pete's thrown that name out generously tonight, so he deserves it.
That's funny.
But
I can't wait
funny.
to see Dexter Fowler starting in right field again next year.
But guys, who needs that name more, and who's willing to shell out more? Because the Cubs have to also think about these guys at the end of their arbitration years.
No, they don't.
Coming up.
Wilson Contreras is gone.
You think
by the time that Wilson Contreras gets to the end of arbitration, Miguel Amaya should be ready to take over.
All right, fine. So Rizzo another one that's gone?
I've always feared that he was. I know Elliot doesn't.
Yeah, you said that.
I've always feared that when he gets to the end of his productive arc, I
I see Theo and Jed being very cold-eyed and calculating in it and saying, Anthony, we appreciate what you've done for us. This is what we can pay you, but we can't break the bank for you.
And I agree with you, Pete. I agree with you. I think that is what's going to happen. And you know what? I don't look at the Cubs organization as a negative on that. I think that's a reality.
It's the smart move to make.
Yep.
Watch them have an amazing season, like next year or something, just like phenomenal. Because baseball's weird.
It is. It can be.
Hey, is that Dad?
Yeah.
That is.
Hi, Elliot's
Dad
family.
Dewey.
Hey,
come on
Mr. Dewey.
Your mistake. You got in the camera view. Now you got to come talk
Yeah,
to
I
us.
shouldn't do that. Don't do that.
You need to learn from Mrs. Nuttall. She never appears on camera.
No, she does not.
She hates what I do, and she will not come out here.
She
like-
just shoots daggers. I can
If
feel.
she
I can
has a
feel,
bottle of wine out here before she knows I record, she scurries out here and gathers it and gets in there before the record button hits.
Here's the funny thing. I could actually feel the temperature drop here in Illinois when she walks into the garage when you're on there.
Ooh.
That's how much she hates this.
No.
I haven't met her, but she sounds like a lovely woman.
She is.
No,
a
she
lovely woman.
is. No, she is. I mean, she.
Ron totally outkicked his coverage.
I did on this one.
He really did.
I really did. No, she like will give me a long leash to do this kind of stuff, but if I try to pull her into it, like get her in front of camera, in front of the mic,
It's not a leash,
no
it's
way.
a choker. Ron.
the choking
It's a
ball.
choker and a ball gag.
No, I mean, but she does. She really like she lets me do all this stuff, but if I try to pull her into it, ain't happening.
Can that be the episode
Nope.
title? Choker and a ball gag.
Please don't.
No,
I
please
do
don't.
not want my face on something that has that kind of title.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
My parents are gonna message me like, Brooklyn, what did you just join?
I thought you said this was about baseball.
I mean, I thought your parents would be concerned just learning the demographics of this podcast.
No.
What are you doing
Um,
with three old
nah.
men?
Yeah.
One of whom colors his beard.
Colors his beard blue at
One
that.
time.
And who knows what else? he
No.
colors.
Ooh.
What? Seriously, man? I do have a wife in there that checkmates me on anything I do that's overly stupid when she's home.
When she's home.
She's home.
That's true.
Was she home when you colored your beard?
No, she was not.
No, I can guarantee you she was not home when he colored his beard.
Yeah, she would have questioned that one. She would have made me feel bad about doing it. I would have put the ink down. Like, no,
See, a good prosecutor always knows the answer to the question before he asks it.
mhm.
Take that
And of
to
course,
law school.
Pete's promoting himself as a great prosecutor.
That's
of course. Yeah, he's, if there's anything you can count on
So-
Pete, he's promoting himself. So,
Okay, so
let's go.
Ron, I will bring it back to your point. You're right. The Cardinals do need a star far more than the Cubs.
They
But
do.
don't think that's going to deter Theo and Jed from going after.
No.
both.
I didn't say it would.
Especially because they've got a lot of money right now, and they've got a lot of money coming online. They may not have Dodgers money coming from their upcoming TV contract, but they've got a lot of money coming down the pipe.
Well, supposedly the Cardinals have had one too that's already kicked in, and we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that like actually manifest itself in significant roster moves.
Well,
So-
that's because they don't know who to sign because they can't access the Astros database anymore.
He always that one's gonna last for 10 years. He's gonna go to that well.
At least,
Yeah.
man.
But I tell you what, the funny thing is, you look at not recent, not this year, but you look at the draft picks that are producing right now, and that was like Chris Correa's draft from that year when he got nailed doing that shit. So that's another thing that you look at and go, oh Christ, when are people going to start pointing that out? And it's already started. So, I think at the time we talked about the punishment that was light. I still felt it was light, but the guy was in jail for 4 years. If there's anything to deter an executive, I think that baseball could have probably done more, but do you have to do more when the federal government already put somebody in jail for 4 years for tapping into a database? Like, what more could deter an executive from doing that kind of shit? I don't know. Maybe it is more. Maybe it's death penalty.
Maybe they lose those draft picks that executive picked.
Possibly. I mean,
It happened to the Braves.
Well,
they lost all those free agents.
They got put back into the pool, and anybody could sign.
Yeah.
They got put back into the pool, and they couldn't sign them back.
Right. Yeah, so that could have happened. I just think that happened at a time when baseball really couldn't judge the impact, and they didn't quite know what to do. It was like almost like a first time thing. Like they didn't know how to deal with it. There was no precedent set.
And also, Bill DeWitt and Manfred are buddies.
Oh, fuck you. Anyway, so we're not talking about that again. We already hashed that out. We didn't even hash it out. We just fought about it like 2 years ago. All right. So we got an important weekend. I know we've got. We're going to continue the show into postseason because we're going to be covering whatever teams make it, their progress, what all of us are thinking about what's going to happen. So it's going to be, regardless of what happens, it's still going to be a relevant and interesting baseball weekend.
It is.
The fact that the Cardinals are still here, given where they were in mid-July, is probably, Pete, I'll steal your line from 2015. They're kind of like still competing on house money right now. I didn't expect this to even be here at this point. So whatever happens feels like it shouldn't have, and I'm just going to enjoy it for as long as I can.
Yeah, I think that we've got a lot of good things going on this year that we haven't been able to fully develop that I'm going to be excited for this next year. But for what's happening right now, at the beginning of the season, I predicted that the Cardinals would be around the wild card spot if we were lucky. So the fact that we're there, I'm pretty proud that I called that, but I'm also really glad that that's where we're at.
I pretty much called them a solid wild card pick, and I'm obviously right now I'm wrong as we sit tonight. But yeah, I was near where you were predicting to, and I think all of us, right, Pete? Did I have that correct?
Yeah. I think we all had Cubs as division winners with the Brewers and the Cardinals as wild cards.
No, we didn't all have that. Only one of us had that.
Oh shoot.
Oh, here he goes.
Was that Pete?
That's right. I forget who had that. Who had that?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go back into.
Well, if there's anybody not humble enough to tell you,
Right.
Let's see. Elliot said it was going to be the Cards and the Rockies.
Yeah.
ooh, he's
Okay, it could still happen.
yeah, it could still happen.
True.
No, because Elliot picked the Cubs to win the division.
Well, they could still win the division.
So he's
They
wrong.
could still win the division.
They're in the
Yeah, I
driver's
know, but where are the Brewers in there? Because the Brewers are in the playoffs. So Elliot is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, Pete,
Yes.
what were your predictions? That's what
Anthony
you
said
desperately wanna
Anthony
get
said
to.
it would be the Cards and Arizona. That's obviously wrong. We were all wrong, obviously, picking Washington as a division.
Oh.
We all did. We
All
all did.
four of us did. Ron was close. Ron said the Cards and the Mets.
Jesus Christ. I was the most off of all of us. I thought the Mets would be. Who didn't think the Mets would be better than how shitty they were?
Especially since they probably have the Cy Young winner on their team.
Exactly, right? I mean,
If he doesn't win the Cy Young, forget it.
yeah, that's a.
Did you
bullshit
see,
award at that point.
If he had gone, somebody said if he gave up 72 runs last night without recording an out, he would then have the worst ERA in baseball.
So I saw something tonight in Cubs pregame. In his 10 wins, he has a .86 ERA. He's 10-0 with a .86 ERA. In his no decisions, 13 games of no decisions.
They've
he
won.
Has,
Yeah,
he,
they've won like
he,
4 of them.
He has a 1.72 ERA. In his 8 losses, he has a 2.72 ERA.
Well, if he doesn't win it, guys, he's getting penalized for his shitty teammates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't happen.
Exactly.
Which shouldn't happen to Cy Young.
Yeah.
No, Max Scherzer has had a wonderful year this year.
Yeah, he has. Good year.
Jacob
tell you what-
DeGrom has had a Bob Gibson level year this year.
Yes.
Yeah, agree. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
just to wrap up that previous thing, I said it was going to be the Cards and the Brewers as the wild card team. Just saying.
Yeah, just saying. Let me stretch out. Let me stretch out what I say a little bit. All right,
No, I tried to-
hold on.
I tried to say that as quietly as possible.
guys, we got to hey, before we sign off here, we have a last topic to touch on here. So, we're talking about all the year-end awards, Gold Gloves, MVPs, and then we got this whole shit thing, Rookie of the Year going on. So, I really don't even care about Rookie of the Year anymore. But until we start talking about the American League, which is just this is one that this is a 100% media fueled. You can throw all the stats and all the shit you want at me, but if you don't give it to one of those Yankees rookies, especially Andujar, this is just a bullshit award, and they should just do away with it. I mean,
Ron,
they really should.
I agree with you, and Ron, I think that you said it best.
It's another edition of Ron's Rants.
God.
Andujar for the Yankees, no question. MLB.com, get out of here. Their radio is boring. Network TV isn't much better. Brian Kenny is boring. Costas and Smokes may be the only reasons to watch. Ever heard player interviews on the radio? I'd rather hear a commercial. It's like they picked the player that most sounds like he was chloroformed. They say nothing. Literally nothing. This Ohtani thing, it's like listening to that parent talking about how brilliant and perfect their little angel is. That's what MLB does with Shohei. You know that kid is a little shit too, and he's not that bright. He eats crumbs off of the floor, and he actually can't read at age 2. That's memorizing the same fucking book you read to him each damn night. Stop it. Just stop it. This has been another edition of Rockies.
Well done, Ron.
All right. So that was light. I mean, that was light.
Well done.
But it was great.
That was light, but yeah, I did go off a little bit after seeing Shohei eyeing Rookie of the Year.
Ron, your writing is getting better. You're getting close to reaching levels.
I mean, my God. I mean, if there's anybody predicted wanted so bad, like the lame ass people at MLB.com, nothing better to write about, no stories to dig up. They look at a phenom from Japan. Let's just fucking anoint him Rookie of the Year, like the savior of baseball coming over. Like, I have nothing against this kid personally. But what rubs me the wrong way is the media anointment of this is it, man. This guy's arrived. He's the next Babe Ruth. He can pitch. He can hit. Yeah, shit. All that stuff's great. Why don't you let the wine breathe before you rate it a fucking highest star you possibly can? But media doesn't want to do that, especially MLB. Folks, if you want to get objective, if you want to get real baseball news, here's my advice. If you're the kind of person that thrives at going to a parent-teacher conference and just talking to parents about how brilliant all your kids are and just having very subsurface level conversations that doesn't mean shit, then go to MLB.com for your news, because that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get the parents there talking about, where do you work? Well, I work here. My kids, they do the. Yeah, that's the kind of shit you're going to get from MLB.com. If you want to have a real conversation, don't go there. Go anywhere else. Go here. As a matter of fact, if you want to hear like what's really happening in baseball, don't go there. MLB.com, since baseball has took this all over, whether it's radio, whether it's TV, I mean, this is just what they do. This is MLB has done a disservice to the whole sport. If we want to wonder why baseball is more boring than NFL, NBA, all these other sports, well, it's because baseball has become more involved. It just is what it is. It just sucks. The writers can't really write what they think. They have to go with the company line, and that's MLB.com. So if you want to get the provolone cheese of news, which has no flavor whatsoever, if you want the raw avocado of news, go to MLB.com. You'll be satisfied there, and you can stay there, and you can just sit there, sit on that avocado, sit on that avocado lawn chair, and just soak in the non-flavor squishiness of MLB.com. I implore you.
When we're not live on Facebook, you can find us on at Team of Rivals Podcast. We're on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod and on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. You can also catch the show after the fact on YouTube. Just search for Team of Rivals Podcast. You can contact us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. On Twitter, you can find Elliot at
TOR_Elliot.
Ron at.
I don't even give a shit. Just tell them.
TOR_Ron 76.
75.
75. Thank you, Elliot. You made me younger.
And you can contact the lovely Miss Carrie at.
Carry on cards.
And catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Radio Public, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. Radio Public is, of course, our preferred platform because it does throw a couple of pennies our way every time you listen. And as always, don't forget, visit the team store on Sazzle. Run.
And buy those hot mugs that change colors when you put hot stuff into them.
Yeah, they do.
Wow.
All right.
Don't let it
It's one of our best.
call you the love of their life.
Yeah. All right. It's been a long night for podcasting. I love that we got Double D on here. I'm gonna hit him up right after this and see if he's still awake. Pete, thanks for the exit. That was brilliant. Elliot, I'm glad you're alive. Brecklin,
Yes.
you make our show much better.
Aw.
We'll talk to all you guys next week. Christ, this is a travesty. Maybe we'll talk this weekend once everything settles. Love you all so much. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.